Hey, and we are live. Good. Everyone, today we're going to be talking about two big topics, which I think will take some time. One is Joe Biden's new vaccine mandate that he's put out. I'm pretty sure y'all are aware of that by now. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the speech, then react to some of the right-wingers' reactions to it, because I've seen some of the video titles, and they look triggered. It's like, oh, New World Order, tyranny, ah. So I'm guessing they're massively overblowing the situation. You know, conservatives live in a constant state of fear, so that's how they operate. That's how their philosophy is. So I'm not surprised at all that they overblew this, like by a big margin, I'm guessing. So yeah. Oh, before I forget, after that, we're going to talk about the Canadian election, federal election that's going to happen now. Remember, vote by September 20th. I'm going to go over the platforms of all the three major parties: NDP, Liberal, and Conservative. Yeah. So we'll go over that after we go over this. So stick around, have fun, just, chill and enjoy. Wow. Let's get into it now. Let's watch Joe Biden's speech. Okay. Boom.
This
Here we
country
go.
hard. We have as COVID-19 has been hitting this country hard, we have the tools to combat the virus.
There we go.
If we can come together as a country and use those tools. If we raise our vaccination rate, protect ourselves and others with masking, expanded testing, and identify people who are infected, we can and we will turn the tide on COVID-19. It'll take a lot of hard work. It's going to take some time. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free. You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19. So before I outline the new steps to fight COVID-19 that I'm going to be announcing tonight, let me give you some clear information about where we stand.
Okay, Joe.
First, we've made considerable progress in battling COVID-19. When I became president, about 2 million Americans were fully vaccinated.
Okay.
Today, over 175 million Americans have that protection. Before I took office, we hadn't ordered enough vaccine for every American. Just weeks in office, we did. The week before I took office on January 20th of this year, over 25,000 Americans died that week from COVID-19.
Damn.
Last week, that grim weekly toll was down 70%. And then 3 months before I took office, our economy was faltering, creating just 50,000 jobs a month. We're now averaging 700,000 new jobs a month in
Okay.
the past 3 months. This progress is real. But while America is much in better shape than it was 7 months ago when I took office, I need to tell you a second fact.
Okay.
We're in the tough stretch, and it could last for a while. Highly contagious Delta variant that I began to warn America about back in July spread late summer like it did in other countries before us. While the vaccines provide strong protection for the vaccinated, we read about and hear about and we see the stories of hospitalized people on their deathbeds among the unvaccinated over the past few weeks. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Absolutely, it is.
It's
It
caused by
definitely
the
is.
fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot. And to make matters worse, there are elected officials actively working to undermine the fight against COVID-19.
Republicans.
Instead of encouraging people to get vaccinated and mask up, they're ordering mobile morgues for the unvaccinated dying from COVID in their communities. This is totally unacceptable. Third, if you wonder how all this adds up, here's the math.
Okay.
The vast majority of Americans are doing the right thing. Nearly 3/4 of the eligible have gotten at least one shot, but 1/4 has not gotten any.
Ooh.
That's nearly 80 million Americans not vaccinated. And a country as large as ours, that's 25% minority. That 25% can cause a lot of damage, and they are.
That's 80 million people, of course.
The
A lot of damage.
unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, or overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer.
Exactly.
And fourth, I want to emphasize that the vaccines provide very strong protection from severe illness from COVID-19.
Yeah, even if you get COVID,
I
you
know
will
there's a lot of confusion and misinformation,
way less likely to be in the
but the
hospital.
world's leading scientists confirm that if you are fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low. In fact, based on available data from the summer, only 1 out of every 160,000 fully vaccinated Americans was hospitalized for COVID per day. These are the facts.
Pretty damn good.
So here's where we stand. The path ahead, even with the Delta variant, is not nearly as bad as last winter. But what makes it incredibly more frustrating is that we have the tools to combat COVID-19, and a distinct minority of Americans, supported by a distinct minority of elected officials, are keeping us from turning the corner. These pandemic politics, as I refer to, are making people sick.
They're killing
causing
people.
unvaccinated people to die.
Yep.
We cannot allow these actions to stand in the way of protecting the large majority of Americans who have done their part, want to get back to life as normal. As your president, I'm announcing tonight a new plan to require more Americans to be vaccinated to combat those blocking public health. My plan also increases testing, protects our economy,
Okay.
and will make our kids safer in schools. It consists of 6 broad areas of action and many specific measures in each of those actions you can read more about in whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.gov.
Okay. I'll read that
The
after this.
measures, these are going
Whitehouse.gov.
to take time to have full impact. But if we implement them, I believe, and the scientists indicate, that the months ahead we can reduce the number of unvaccinated Americans, decrease hospitalizations and deaths, and allow our children to go to school safely and keep our economy strong by keeping businesses open. First, we must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. With nearly 80 million eligible Americans who have not gotten vaccinated, many said they were waiting for approval from the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Well, last month, the FDA granted that approval. So,
Yep,
time
it did
for
with the
waiting is
Pfizer
over.
vaccine. It did.
This summer, we made progress through the combination of vaccine requirements and incentives, as well as the FDA approval. 4 million more people got their first shot in August than they did in July. But we need to do more. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you, the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love. My job as president is to protect all Americans. So tonight, I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least
There you
once
go.
a week.
Once a week.
Some of the biggest companies are already requiring this. United Airlines, Disney, Tyson's Food, and even Fox News. The bottom line,
Even Fox News, he said.
we're going
That's
to
true.
protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers. We're going to reduce the spread of COVID-19 by increasing the share of the workforce that is vaccinated in businesses all across America. My plan will extend the vaccination requirements that I previously issued in the healthcare field. Already, I've announced we'll be requiring vaccinations of all nursing home workers who treat patients on Medicare and Medicaid because I have that federal authority.
Good.
Tonight I'm using that same authority to expand that to cover those who work in hospitals, home health care facilities, or other medical facilities. A total of 17 million healthcare workers. If you're seeking care at a health facility, you should be able to know that the people treating you are vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Simple, straightforward, period. Next, I will sign an executive order that will now require all executive branch federal employees to be vaccinated. All.
Good.
And I've signed another executive order that will require federal contractors to do the same. If you want to work with the federal government and do business with us, get vaccinated. If you want to do business with the federal government, vaccinate your workforce.
There you go.
And tonight, I'm removing one of the last remaining obstacles that make it difficult for you to get vaccinated. The Department of Labor will require employers with 100 or more workers to give those workers paid time off to get vaccinated. No one should lose pay in order to get vaccinated or take a loved one.
That's such an awesome freaking policy.
Today,
Let me pause this video right now. I just want to talk about that policy. Yeah, that is so cool, man. I'm glad that he did that because people do have to take time off work to go and get vaccinated. So it's really, and they lose pay, so they get punished for going and getting vaccinated. And then sometimes they feel sick. You know, everyone, you know, you get a little sick after the vaccine, right, for a few days, and you feel out of it. Trust me, when I got the vaccine, I was completely out of it. So, they shouldn't be penalized for that. There'll be people who won't get vaccinated who are afraid to get vaccinated because, like, oh, you know, after vaccine, I'm gonna be sick, I'm gonna be completely out of it, and I'll miss work, and I won't get money, and I can't pay the bills. Good. I'm glad he's doing this because this will encourage, that will get rid of that fear, and people will go and get vaccinated and be like, okay, I still get paid, even when I'm sick. They have to take a day off, a few days off, even when I'm sick. I can still get paid. And I can go back to work and everything will be fine and I can pay my bills. This is very important and I'm very glad that Joe Biden is doing this. So congratulations to Joe Biden. Thank you for helping so many Americans to get vaccinated. Seriously. Let's get back to it.
The vaccine requirements in my plan will affect about 100 million Americans.
Good.
2/3 of all workers. And for other sectors, I issue this appeal to those of you running large entertainment venues, from sports arenas to concert venues to movie theaters. Please require folks to get vaccinated or show a negative test as a condition of entry.
Absolutely.
And to the nation's family physicians, pediatricians, GPs, general practitioners, you're the most trusted medical voice to your patients. You may be the one person who can get someone to change their mind about being vaccinated. Tonight.
Sorry, my camera just went off for no reason.
I'm asking each of you to reach out to your unvaccinated patients over the next 2 weeks and make a personal appeal to them to get the shot. America needs your personal involvement in this critical effort.
Okay.
My message to unvaccinated Americans is this. What more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see?
There you go.
We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. The vaccine is FDA approval. Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
Exactly. Tell them how it is, Joe.
Please do the right thing. Just don't take it from me. Listen to the voices of unvaccinated Americans who are lying in hospital beds, taking their final breath saying, if only I'd gotten vaccinated.
Damn.
If only. It's a tragedy.
It is.
Please don't let it become yours. Second piece of my plan is continuing to protect the vaccinated. For the vast majority of you who've gotten vaccinated, I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. I understand the anxiety about getting a breakthrough case. But as the science makes clear, if you're fully vaccinated, you're highly protected from severe illness, even if you get COVID-19. In fact, recent data indicates there is only one confirmed positive case per 5,000 fully vaccinated Americans per day.
Wow,
We're as
that's
safe
amazing.
as possible. And we're doing everything we can to keep it that way. Keep it that way. Keep you safe. That's where boosters come in. The shots that give you even more protection than after your second shot. Now, I know there's been some confusion about boosters, so let me be clear. Last month, our top government doctors announced an initial plan for booster shots for vaccinated Americans. They believe that the booster is likely to provide the highest level of protection yet. Of course, the decision of which booster shots to give, or when to start them, and who will give them will be left completely to the scientists at the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control.
Good.
But while we wait, we've done our part. We've bought enough boosters, enough booster shots, and the distribution system is ready to administer them. As soon as they are authorized, those eligible will be able to get a booster right away in tens of thousands of sites across the country for most Americans at your nearby drugstore and for free. The third piece of my plan is keeping, and maybe the most important, is keeping our children safe and our schools open.
Yes.
For any parent, it doesn't matter how low the risk of any illness or accident is when it comes to your child or grandchild. Trust me, I know. So, let me speak to you directly. Let me speak to you directly to help ease some of your worries. It comes down to two separate categories. Children ages 12 and older who are eligible for a vaccine now, and children ages 11 and under who are not yet eligible. The safest thing for your child 12 and older is to get them vaccinated. They get vaccinated for a lot of things. That's it, get them vaccinated.
They do. The flu.
As with adults, almost all the serious COVID-19 cases we're seeing among adolescents are in unvaccinated 12 to 17-year-olds, an age group that lags behind in vaccination rates. So parents, please get your teenager vaccinated.
Yeah.
What about children under the age of 12 who can't get vaccinated yet? Well, the best way for a parent to protect their child under the age of 12 starts at home.
To get vaccinated.
Every parent,
to parents.
every teen sibling, every caregiver around them should be vaccinated. Children have 4 times higher chance of getting hospitalized if they live in a state with low vaccination rates rather than states with high vaccination rates.
Yeah, like Florida and Texas, low
If you're
vaccination
a parent of a
rates.
young child, you're wondering when will it be the vaccine available for them? I strongly support independent scientific review for vaccine uses for children under 12. We can't take shortcuts with that scientific
Definitely not. It could be bad
I
consequences.
made it clear I will do everything within my power to support the FDA with any resource it needs to continue to do this as safely and as quickly as possible. And our nation's top doctors are committed to keeping the public at large updated on the process so parents can plan. Now to the schools. We know that if schools follow the science and implement the safety measures like testing, masking, adequate ventilation systems which we provided the money for, social distancing, and vaccinations, then children can be safe from COVID-19 in schools.
True.
Today, about 90% of school staffs and teachers are vaccinated.
That's great.
We should get that to 100%.
I agree.
My administration has already required teachers at the schools run by the Defense Department, because I have the authority as president of the federal system, the Defense Department and the Interior Department, to get vaccinated. That's authority I possess. Tonight I'm announcing that will require all of nearly 300,000 educators in the federal paid program, Head Start program, must be vaccinated as well to protect your youngest, our youngest, most precious Americans, and give parents the comfort. And tonight, I'm calling on all governors to require vaccination for all teachers and staff. Some already have done so. We need more to step up. Vaccination requirements in schools are nothing new. They work. They're overwhelmingly supported by educators and their unions.
Mm-hmm.
And all school officials trying to do the right thing by our children. I'll always be on your side. Let me be blunt. My plan also takes on elected officials in states that are undermining you in these life-saving actions.
Good.
Right now, local school officials are trying to keep children safe in a pandemic while their governor picks a fight with them and even threatens their salaries or their jobs. Talk about bullying in schools.
Yeah.
They'll not help. These governors won't help us beat the pandemic. I'll use my power as president to get them out of the way. The Department of Education has already begun to take legal action against states undermining protection
Good.
that local school officials have ordered. Any teacher or school official whose pay is withheld for doing the right thing, we will have that pay restored by the federal government 100%.
Good.
I promise you, I will have your back.
It's a good speech. I like this.
Fourth piece of my plan is increasing testing and masking.
Important.
From the start, America has failed to do enough COVID-19 testing. In order to better detect and control the Delta variant, I'm taking steps tonight to make testing more available, more affordable, and more convenient. I'll use the Defense Production Act to increase production of rapid tests, including those that you can use at home. While that production is ramping up, my administration has worked with top retailers like Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger's. And tonight, we're announcing that no later than next week, each of these outlets will start to sell at-home rapid test kits at cost for the next 3 months. This immediate price reduction for at-home test kits for up to 35% reduction. We'll also expand free testing at 10,000 pharmacies around the country. And we're committing $2 billion to purchase nearly 300 million rapid tests for distribution to community health centers, food banks, schools, so that every American, no matter their income.
Sorry to pause the video, but I think it's really good. These at-home test kits thing is a really good idea, because those who don't want to go out and get tested now don't have an excuse, because they can get an at-home test kit at home. And those who want to get vaccinated but are kind of afraid of getting COVID, or or maybe too busy, whatever it is, they can get their vaccine safely. And the anti-vaxxers who don't want to be like, oh well, I could get COVID getting the vaccine, now you don't have an excuse. And the normal people, the good people who want to get vaccinated, now y'all can do it in a safe manner and an easy manner. So I think that's a great idea. Reducing the cost, making it affordable for middle class and poor people to buy it, I think is a great idea. So sorry, not getting vaccinated, what am I talking about? It's getting at-home testing, so people know there's no excuse that the test is going to take too long, I can't go to work. It's like you can test yourself at home and see if you're negative or positive. Why am I saying at-home vaccinated kit? Oh god, that was stupid of me. But yes, that's a great idea, I think, because that way they don't have an excuse like, oh, the test takes too long, I have to go to work and pay the bills. Like, nah, you can test yourself at home now. Hope y'all can hear me.
Can access free and convenient tests. This is important to everyone, particularly for a parent or a child with a child not old enough to be vaccinated. You'll be able to test them at home and test those around them.
Yep.
In addition to testing, we know masking helps stop the spread of COVID-19.
It does.
That's why when I came into office, I required masks for all federal buildings, on federal lands, on airlines, and other modes of transportation. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Transportation Safety Administration, the TSA, will double the fines on travelers that refuse to mask. If you break the rules, be prepared to pay. And by the way, show some respect. The anger you see on television toward flight attendants and others doing their job is wrong. It's ugly.
Exactly.
The fifth piece of my plan is protecting our economic recovery. Because of our vaccination program and the American Rescue Plan, which we passed early in my administration, we've had record job creation for a new administration. Economic growth unmatched in 40 years. We cannot let unvaccinated do this progress, undo it, turn it back.
Yep.
So tonight, I'm announcing additional steps to strengthen our economic recovery. We'll be expanding COVID-19 economic injury disaster loan programs. That's a program that's going to allow small businesses to
Get
borrow
loans.
up to $2 million
Wow.
from the current $500,000 to
Good.
keep going if COVID-19 impacts on their sales. These low-interest, long-term loans require no repayment for 2 years and can be used to hire and retain workers, purchase inventory, or even pay down higher cost debt racked up since the pandemic began. I'll also be taking additional steps to help small businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. Sixth, we're going to continue to improve the care of those who do get COVID-19. In early July, I announced the deployment of surge response teams. These are teams comprised of experts from the Department of Health and Human Services, the CDC, the Defense Department, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to areas in the country that need help to stem the spread of COVID-19.
Good.
Since then, the federal government has deployed nearly 1,000 staff, including doctors, nurses, paramedics, into 18 states. Today, I'm announcing that the Defense Department will double the number of military health teams that they'll deploy to help their fellow Americans and hospitals around the country. Additionally, we're increasing the availability of new medicines recommended by real doctors, not conspiracy theorists.
Good.
The monoclonal antibody treatments have been shown to reduce the risk of hospitalization by up to 70% for unvaccinated people at risk of
Okay,
developing.
I just gotta pause the video. The monoclonal antibiotic, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but those are the treatments that good old Joe Rogan took, and he took ivermectin. Obviously, we all know that type of stupid stuff, and he claims obviously that it helped. The ivermectin helped. It's like, no, bro, your monoclonal antibiotic thing helped, and a lot of people now, because of his stupid misinformation campaign, think that ivermectin actually works now. It's incredibly stupid. So remember, it's that monoclonal antibiotic treatment that helped Joe, not ivermectin. So I just wanted to let anyone who's watching know that. So don't take ivermectin. Definitely not the animal version, and the human version will do nothing at all. It's to get rid of like head lice and stuff, not to treat COVID. Jeez. Can't believe I'm saying that.
Severe disease. We've already distributed 1.4 million courses of these treatments to save lives and reduce the strain on hospitals. Tonight, I'm announcing we will increase the average pace of shipment across the country of free monoclonal antibody treatments
Good.
by another 50%. Before I close, let me say this. Communities of color are disproportionately impacted by this virus.
Yeah.
And as we continue to battle COVID-19, we will ensure that equity continues to be at the center of our response. We'll ensure that everyone is reached. My first responsibility as president is to protect the American people and make sure we have enough vaccine for every American, including enough boosters for every American who's approved to get one. We also know this virus transcends borders. That's why even as we execute this plan at home, we need to continue fighting the virus overseas, continue to be the arsenal of vaccines. We're proud to have donated nearly 140 million vaccines over 90 countries, more than all other countries combined, including Europe, China, and Russia combined. That's American leadership on a global stage.
Did they actually do that? Because I swear I heard something different. Okay, so this is the White House. Okay, so 500 million, 110 million, 500 million Pfizer vaccine doses. Plans to donate. The US has shipped. Good. So it looks like he has. I'm really glad that he has. I've skimmed over the articles. I'm glad that he has pushed over 100 million doses. Like, this is, Biden's doing really, really well with COVID. I'm glad that he's done that, because this is a global pandemic, not a single country or a continent pandemic. So we need to deal with it as a global pandemic. And that means donating vaccines if you have the ability to do so. And he has. And America has. And I'm glad that they have. Whew, thank God Trump didn't win, eh?
Just the beginning. We've also now started to ship another 500 million COVID vaccines, Pfizer vaccines, purchased to donate to 100 lower-income countries in need of vaccines. And I'll be announcing additional steps to help the rest of the world later this month. As I recently released the key parts of my pandemic preparedness plan so that America isn't caught flat-footed with a new pandemic comes again, as it will. Next month, I'm also going to release a plan in greater detail.
Okay, good.
So let me close with this. We've made so much progress during the past 7 months of this pandemic. The recent increases in vaccinations in August already are having an impact in some states where case counts are dropping in recent days. Even so, we remain at a critical moment, a critical time. We have the tools. Now we just have to finish the job with truth, with science, with confidence.
Yes.
And together, as one nation. Look, we're the United States of America. There's nothing, not a single thing we're unable to do if we do it together. So let's stay together. God bless you all and all those who continue to serve on the front lines of this pandemic. And may God protect our troops. Get vaccinated.
Clap, 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 clap. An excellent speech, highlighted everything that I wanted it to be highlighted. He's coming out with some really good ideas, good programs that will help stop the spread of the new Delta variant in America. And since I live in Canada, that does matter to me too, because we share a huge border. This is great. I wish our country was as good with dealing with it, because in our province they've just come out with vaccine passports. They're not mandating it in schools, I think, because our province is headed by a conservative, so Ontario, so obviously a bunch of idiots, conservatives. But federally they have done well, because we had a liberal NDP party. But I will go over the Canadian politics later. First, let's look at the right-wingers' reactions to this, which I'm going to guess is going to be really stupid. I'm going to start out with a channel that I've seen Vosh react to called Michael Knowles. He seems like a complete idiot, to be honest. So let's see what his take is on the COVID-19 Joe Biden speech, because I know a lot of conservatives have been triggered a lot by this. Okay. Switch here. So here it is, the video.
I wanted to ask you about PrEP. PrEP?
9 months ago, a full month after the presidential election, Joe Biden assured the American people that he did not support a federal vaccine mandate for COVID-19.
Be mandatory?
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide. I'll do everything in my power as the President of the United States to encourage people to do the right thing, and when they do it, demonstrate that it matters.
Clear enough. But because his word is completely worthless, Joe Biden did a 180 and is demanding now that 100 million Americans give up their freedom and take the Fauci ouchie. And he did so in the most cartoonishly super villainy language possible.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you. So tonight, I'm
wanna react to
announcing
this.
that
Give
the
me a second.
Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. This is about Joe Biden's patience wearing thin.
Okay, so let me respond to this stupid ass point he made. First of all, that speech was in 2020, right? December 4th. At that point, the pandemic was not nearly as bad as it is now, right? It was bad, but he didn't believe in mandating it and things like that. He really thought by encouraging the COVID-19, like encouraging to take vaccines and saying this is bad, this is it. Now, the pandemic was pretty bad, but all I'm saying is the Delta variant is far worse. I don't think we didn't have a Delta variant, I think, back then, right? Because the pandemic, from what I remember in our lockdowns, were around March. So he thought he could encourage it, but idiots like you, Michael, and Ben Shapiro and Rob DeSantis and Greg Abbott, like the two governors of Florida and Texas, and Ben Shapiro being an absolute idiotic YouTuber, decided to do this anti-vax propaganda. Oh, Fox News too. And y'all made a lot of people vaccine hesitant, and then the pandemic kept going when it really should have been over right by now. If people had properly vaccinated, the pandemic, at least in this part of the world for now, would not be bad. You see what I'm saying? But idiots like you have managed to keep extending the pandemic, to keep making people not take the vaccine, to keep the new variants alive and strong in terms of for them, and getting people killed into the hospital, and people even recover from COVID now having to deal with long COVID effects. Idiots like you have done that, and now you've forced Joe Biden to mandate it, because without mandating it, people will not take the vaccine, and because of that, this pandemic will continue to kill, to hurt, and to destroy people. It has really taken our society like completely out of the freaking norm, right? People can't go out and have fun anymore. People can't go to the theater anymore. People can't, go to the beach safely anymore in summer. They can't hang out with their friends. And the reason that's happened this summer especially is because of idiots who followed your advice. Poor people who've been brainwashed by you, people who have trusted you. You lied to them, you misled them because you were paid to do so, or on other crazy reasons. Maybe you actually do believe this crazy thing that the vaccine is bad. And because of that, we all, those who are vaccinated, have to keep suffering because of the unvaccinated. This truly is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And who leads the unvaccinated? Who controls them and commands them? People like you, Michael, Ben, Rob DeSantis, Greg Abbott, and Fox News, and other people, Tucker Carlson. All these people are the reasons, the big major reasons why people don't get vaccinated and why this pandemic is not over as it should be, at least very much controlled. So yeah, that is why he's mandated. Y'all have forced him to do this. Y'all have. All of you. You're forced him to do this. So don't be mad when you forced Biden into mandating it because y'all kept putting out BS propaganda and anti-vax propaganda. And yeah, that's basically it. Y'all forced him to it. Let's keep the video going. Let's see how much he blames Biden for his own BS. His own party's BS.
Got it. Well, I've got 2 words for Joe Biden, and they're not Mr. President. I do not presume to speak for the American people, but speaking just for us here at the Daily Wire, we will not comply. Joe Biden can go pound sand. We will pursue every legal option available to us to ignore this incoherent and un-American edict from on high. Joe Biden's speech yesterday was the most vicious, divisive speech I have ever heard from an American president about his fellow Americans.
What, Michael? Are you crazy? How is it divisive? It was just telling you idiots, stop screwing the rest of us over. Stop getting your people killed. Stop getting your followers killed, Michael. That's what you're doing. You're getting your followers killed. You're getting them in the ICUs. You're getting them to take up space when people with cancer and other necessary surgeries, like cancer and other surgeries that are necessary, now they can't get the treatment that they need and they're going to die. They're going to suffer because of unvaccinated people taking up beds in hospitals and overflowing the hospitals. Hospitals are overflowing now because of that. I mean, it is your fault, right? Y'all have done it. And now you said it's a divisive, vicious speech. It's just a speech telling you, stop being stupid and take the vaccine. That's the gist of it. And he's laying out some very good plans for it. You do not have the freedom. Let me explain this. You do not have the freedom to take other people's freedoms away. You do not have the right to not be vaccinated in a deadly pandemic. And because of that, people can't go out safely to the places they want to go. To work by using public transport or being in work around their colleagues. You can't take the right of people away to go to theaters, to restaurants, to beaches, to travel around the world like they want to. Unvaccinated people have taken the rights of those people away. So your freedom, no. Your freedom stops when you start taking other people's freedoms away, which is exactly what's happening with the people who are unvaccinated. They're taking the freedom of the vaccinated people away. So this is not about freedom. This is about responsibility to your fellow citizens. Like Biden said.
It began, well, you heard a little touch of it earlier. It began with this idea of Joe's patience wearing thin. Well, he's a crotchety old man. His patience wears thin. He's not old slap happy Joe like he used to be. And so he opens up the speech vilifying Americans who, for whatever reason in their prudential judgment, decided that they didn't want to get the experimental drug for the Wuhan cough.
First of all, it's not an experimental drug because the FDA has approved it. Sorry if I keep switching camera angles. Y'all can tell me in the comment section if you don't want me to do that and just keep it in the small camera angle. It's not an experimental drug. The FDA has approved it. And even before that, it was the process was expedited, sure, because of the need for the vaccine right now. But it is still good. It still has been proven to work. So it's not an experimental drug or something. Don't try to discredit it. Don't lie now. I mean, that's what you do. That's your brand. But your lies are getting people killed, mate. They are. So, man, what an idiot. And I feel so bad for the people who follow them and trust him. They've totally been misled, and this person does not care about you. They just care about the money that they make from getting you killed and hurt and getting COVID. That's basically what it is. So yeah, it's not an experimental drug. It's FDA approved, the Pfizer vaccine. And the other vaccines are also fine. Especially Moderna is also good. So yeah, the process was expedited, but that does not mean it's experimental.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And it's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations. We still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. And a distinct minority of Americans, supported by a distinct minority of elected officials, are keeping us from turning the corner.
It sounds like he's saying
allow
stink
these
instead of
actions
distinct.
to stand in the way of protecting the large majority of Americans who have done their part. I want to get back to life as normal.
So 80 million Americans who refuse to take the experimental jab for the virus that for most people is just a mild cold.
Yo, you didn't just say that. You know how many people have died in the US out of COVID? How is it a cold? It's like shortness of breathing. People have nightmares. Like, it's a horrible experience. Look at any interview with any COVID person who has survived it. I'm talking about. It's a horrible experience. The worst experience of my life. I felt like I was about to die. That's the usual sentiment. It's not just a. It's not just that. Come on now. This is actually a straight up lie. Let me show you. Okay. US. Oh, not bias. US COVID deaths. How many deaths? 660,000 deaths. 660,000 deaths. 41 million total cases. Obviously, Texas and Florida are number 2. Not surprising. So why is it, Michael, that the two states that don't like vaccinations and don't like masking are the top 2 in terms of deaths and cases? Like, look. 4.58 million cases, 67,000 deaths. 3.81 million cases, 60,000 deaths, right? And you look, the third one, boom, it drops to 48,000, and yet, sorry, not, what am I saying? Wait, give me a sec, I just lost the thing. Yeah, okay, sorry, I mixed up the Texas and Florida deaths. So yeah, 48,000 deaths, 60,000 deaths in Texas, 48,000 in Florida. 3.81 million in Texas, 3.42 in Florida. Look at New York, 2.33 million, 54,000 deaths. Right? More deaths in New York, but way less cases. And I think New York is a bigger state than Florida. Again, I'm not an American expert there. So, right, look, why the top 2 cases, top 2 states that have problems with COVID, Texas and Florida, both states who don't want to face the facts. And if it's a mild cough, how come 660,000 people have died because of COVID? That actually makes no sense. How do people even follow this person? God damn, I wonder how they got radicalized. It makes me sad. So let's get to it. Let's get to the rest of this idiotic video.
They are destroying the country. They are the reason people can't get cancer treatments.
Yes.
Not the lockdown. You know, remember the lockdown, the various lockdowns that we've been in?
Why do you think we had lockdowns, you dummy? Because of COVID. So we had to lock down. And the reason we might go into lockdowns again now is because of unvaccinated people. Initially, we had to. And I feel bad for those who missed out on their surgeries and things like that because of the lockdown. But it had to be done for the safety of everyone, including those people who needed their surgeries. But now, the only reason they're not getting it is because of unvaccinated people. Because of people like you misleading them. Let's get to it, man.
That actually prevented people from getting cancer treatments? No, it's not that. It's the unvaccinated. Because this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I don't think that Joe Biden would have given this speech, this vicious speech,
Vicious.
if
So
the number
triggered.
had been 160 million. He wouldn't have done that because then you would have had half of the country not having been vaccinated, and he doesn't want to risk that kind of political capital castigating half of the country. He only wants to wait until it's a distinct minority. Then he can go out and demagogue.
That actually made no sense. I don't know what his point was. Oh, he waited till it was lower. No, it's just that more than half the country is much smarter than you are, Michael. Like, that's why. It's not because Joe waited. It's because they're much smarter than you are, and then the number of people who are not vaccinating are now just 80 million. It's not a political thing. It's just, I know, I'm sorry, Michael. It's tough to accept that more than half of America is smarter than you are.
As he licks his finger, he puts it in the air, he figures out which way the wind is blowing. And his word is worthless, so when he says there won't be a mandate, that's just a lie. When you want to protect yourself, I would strongly recommend you check out Ring Alarm. Ring Alarm. You can protect your home anytime from anywhere. I love it.
Ring alarms, screw you for sponsoring this guy. But anyways, let's just keep it. Let's skip. Boom. Sorry, I'm not going to listen to his stupid sponsorship.
So he comes out and he says, okay, the unvaccinated, they're awful people. They're evil, awful, terrible people. They're killing the good.
He didn't say they were evil, awful, terrible people. You're putting words in his mouth. See, this is why I react to the entire speech before I listen to these people, because they will put words in Joe's mouth that he didn't say. He didn't say the evil, awful people. He's just like, why are you not doing it? You're putting everyone at risk. That's it. He never said anything else.
Vaccinated Americans, but the vaccinated Americans are not at risk.
I know there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, but the world's leading scientists confirm that if you're fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low. In fact, based on available data from the summer, only 1 out of every 160,000 fully vaccinated Americans was hospitalized for COVID per day. For the vast majority of you who've gotten vaccinated, I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. I understand the anxiety about getting a breakthrough case. But as the science makes clear, if you're fully vaccinated, you're highly protected from severe illness, even if you get COVID-19. In fact, recent data indicates there is only 1 confirmed positive case per 5,000 fully vaccinated Americans per day. You're as safe as possible.
Help me out here. Maybe I'm a little bit slow. Maybe I just don't understand this. Joe Biden is saying that there are a lot of Americans who are angry at the unvaccinated because they have anxiety that they could get a breakthrough case and face the serious complications of coronavirus. And he understands that anger. Frankly, he's stoking that anger in this speech. But the vaccinated Americans are at statistically no risk of coronavirus from the unvaccinated Americans. Right? He's saying the science is clear, you're not at risk. You have an infinitesimally small chance of getting a breakthrough case.
He said very little chance of getting hospitalized because of COVID, not getting COVID. Yeah, you have a low chance of getting COVID, but you can still get it. The effects just won't be too bad. It's just, right, like, it's a very small chance, you're right, but he didn't say you will never get COVID. You can still get it, and the chance of hospitalization is a lot lower, but why would we want to risk that? I don't know.
And certainly of suffering any serious consequences from it. So then why do you understand the anger? Why do you understand the frustration? They shouldn't be angry and they shouldn't be frustrated because they're not at risk. Because the people who don't want to take the Fauci ouchie for whatever reason, maybe because you...
Oh man, Michael. The vaccine works for the current COVID-19. If a variant comes around like Delta, and we're hearing about a Mu variant right now, then what's going to happen is the vaccines are no longer going to work, or they're not going to be nearly as effective. And then people again have to go into lockdown, and again there has to be a new vaccine, built for the vaccine. What am I saying? A new vaccine built for the vaccine. Yes, vaccinate against the vaccine. No. A new vaccine built for the new variant. The virus, I don't know if you know how it works, Michael. Each time it multiplies, there's a possibility there will be a mutation, and a new variant comes around. And that can bypass or reduce the effectiveness of that can bypass the vaccine. And if someone who's vaccinated and is still kind of protected against it, the chances of them being hospitalized might go higher because the new variant could be deadlier, right? or the chances of them having any other serious sort of problems could be higher, and the chances of them spreading it also could be higher. So it's not as simple as, oh, you're protected 100% against every variant since you got the vaccine. No, new variants can mess with the vaccine and reduce its effectiveness, or maybe even make it ineffective completely. And what if you get a completely deadly version of COVID-19 which it just kills? You want that? No. So no, that's why people are angry, because unvaccinated people are also preventing us from opening up fully because of the reasons that I just said. So vaccinated people have done their job, have done their duty, and they're still not able to do what they want in life because of people like the people that you're misleading are not getting vaccinated, Michael. That's why. It's that simple. New variants will develop if the virus is allowed to continue to live. That's why we don't want anybody unvaccinated. It's that simple. God, it's like he's not read the science at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he is, and he's pretty anti-science from what I can get from this.
Schmucks have been lying to us for the past year and a half. Maybe they have a justification for that. Maybe they've got some prudential judgment. And as you admit, they don't pose any threat to the vaccinated people. But he continues to...
They do. He just said that they stop society from going forward and they allow new variants to come through.
Demagogue. Anyway, because they don't pose any threat at all, but because of the massive threat they pose, we're going to make 100 million people take the shot. And I know this is crazy. Look, I'm not an epidemiologist.
You're an idiot.
But
That's
why is the focus entirely on a vaccine when we're being told that the vaccines, they do work, they're so wonderful, they're the greatest vaccines ever, but also they don't really work and they don't really stop the spread, and you need a booster 2 months after you get your original series of vaccines?
Vaccines don't stay around forever, Michael. You need boosters because the effectiveness fades over time, and you need to keep the antibodies in your system. They don't just... There's a reason you can get boosters for pretty much everything. There's a reason why you get the flu vaccine every year too, because again, the flu virus is a little different every year too. There's a reason you have to get a booster, because with idiots who are unvaccinated, there'll be new variants, and then you'll have to get a shot for that as well, and then boosters for the original vaccine, because the original vaccine's effectiveness goes down as time goes on, right? Like, it's that simple. Like, you can look it on Google right now. Why do you have to get booster shots for vaccines? Vaccines help us protect against virus and bacteria. Once you've had a shot for a particular disease, you might think you're always safe from it, but that's not necessarily the case. For some diseases, you need another shot to build strong immunity. For others, your protection wears over time. Some viruses change or mutate over time, making your virus less effective. See, what did I say? For most vaccinations, you need more than one jab to ward off an infection. The extra dose of a vaccine is known as a booster shot. How do vaccine boosters work? A vaccine contains a weakened form of the disease-causing virus or bacteria, or part of these germs, or it may be made of an altered genetic blueprint for the germ that can make you sick. The shot triggers your immune system to attack the foreign organism, like if you actually want to get the disease. So we all know how the vaccine works. Who needs booster shots? Baby, teen, adult? Right. Most people who got a vaccine against COVID-19 are protected against the serious illness from the coronavirus, but highly effective vaccines can become less effective over time. The coronavirus vaccines are no exceptions. Initial evidence on the mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna suggests they start to lose some of their power against infections and serious illnesses regardless of variant of the virus, i.e. alpha, beta, delta, etc. Right. So we have already seen from WMD that this is the reason... This is the reason, Michael, that you have to get boosters. Because if you don't get boosters, the effectiveness of the vaccine goes down over time. It's not that the vaccine isn't effective. It's that the new variants come out and the vaccine does lose effectiveness over time. And the booster helps your immune system, quote unquote, remember the virus, and it will be more effective against it, should it have to fight against it, should you get it. Simple. Simple science, and this person doesn't even know it.
But they're really, really good, but they're also not that effective. So if there's so many questions about the vaccines, why not focus on treatments?
We're increasing the availability of new medicines recommended by real doctors, not conspiracy theorists. The monoclonal antibody treatments have been shown to reduce the risk of hospitalization by up to 70% for unvaccinated people at risk of developing severe disease. We've already distributed 1.4 million courses of these treatments to save lives and reduce the strain on hospitals.
Hold on a second. So what you're telling me is that there are all these questions about the vaccines, and it took a long time to jump through all of the various hoops, and they're not quite as effective as everyone told us they are, and that's why
He didn't say any of that. You're just putting words in his mouth. It's so stupid. Like, what?
you need new booster shots, and there's still these breakthrough cases, and they're still being transmitted. And you've got 170 to 200 million Americans who have taken that, versus 1.7 million Americans who have received the treatment, the therapeutics that reduce the risk by 70%, that are very effective, that you're now calling on them to be more widespread. Why haven't you put any focus on the treatments before? Why are you focused only on...
Maybe because the treatments weren't there before. Maybe they hadn't figured out which treatments work. Science takes some time, especially with a novel virus like the COVID-19 and with the variants popping up all around the world. Yeah, you're not going to get things like this. Sorry, it doesn't happen that way. I know you're not a scientist. I know you're not even close to being intelligent. But at least you should understand that, Michael. God damn. Like, that's how it works. That's how it works. Things take time. They have to figure things out. And now they know that is effective. They're gonna say, well, let's give it out to the people. That sounds like responsible people to me.
on this vaccine that has a lot of questions about it, when you could just focus on the therapeutics, which seems much more reliable. And then instead of having to
It's not much more
jab,
reliable.
shoot
It's
up.
not much more reliable. It's 70%. The Pfizer vaccine is 92% against the normal COVID variant, and 98, 92, 98%, and Moderna's around the same. So that's complete BS. It's not as effective. This is 70. The other one's 90s.
Up every single American, shut down the economy, you could just treat people who actually have symptoms, who are actually at risk. Why not do that? Fauci has undertaken the strategy from the beginning of his career. This was a big issue when he was dealing with AIDS back in the 1980s. Everybody said, hey, just develop some treatments. He said, no, we've got to focus on the vaccine. He put most of the resources behind the vaccine. We still don't have an AIDS vaccine, and the only way people with AIDS survive is because they take cocktails of therapeutics. Decade and decade and decade of failure, and now this guy, these people are going to lie to us. They're going to vilify all of these Americans, and they're going to upend our constitutional order.
First of all, America has had mandated vaccines before. George Washington, someone I think everyone praises, mandated that his troops get vaccinated against, let me see, the U.S. has a long history of requiring vaccines. In winter 1777, George Washington required smallpox inoculation for all his soldiers fighting in the British. In 1809, Massachusetts passed a law requiring proof of inoculation against the smallpox. So America has literally done this before during a time when the country was a lot more, I guess, conservative, and they still did it. So it has been done before, Michael, again, by one of the amazing figures of U.S. history. You know, for y'all worship this guy, so I mean, he did it. He mandated it. That's all I gotta say.
One of the most disgusting speeches I've ever seen from a president.
Oh Lord. Yeah, so in conclusion, this video was stupid. I didn't think I could find anyone more stupid and creepier, because he looks like a freaking serial killer, Michael. Any more creepier than Ben Shapiro and stupid, but hey, I have. These conservatives, I guess, never cease to surprise me in terms of their stupidity. Yeah. I mean, he's completely wrong. He brought up a lot of stupid points. He's clearly not read any of the scientific material. He has no basic common sense. He's completely misleading his followers, and he's gonna get more people killed and hurt. And COVID will keep going, and new variants will come because of people like him. So like, please get the vaccine. If any of his fans are watching, I hope you have understood how stupid this guy is and how much he's misleading you and how much he doesn't care about you. Please get the vaccine. Please. Ah, man. That's all I really got to say. I think I've said everything I wanted to say during the video. I don't really usually say much in my outros or my conclusions because I usually say everything during the video. We've got one more person to cover, I think. Probably Ben Shapiro. I think I'll see his take on vaccines. Now let's go watch Ben Shapiro's video. See how stupid that is.
I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. That 25% can cause a lot. I understand.
Alright, let's see Ben Shapiro's stupid freaking videos on this. Here we go. Hopefully y'all can see this. Let's look at this.
Understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. That 25% can cause a lot of damage, and they are.
To whom? To the 25%. It is not about actually achieving more vaccines. It is about shifting blame away from Joe Biden being a failure of president. Let's be real about this. Joe Biden is a failed president. He's a failed president. He failed in Afghanistan, and he blames everybody else.
Ben, I had my criticisms of Joe Biden during the Afghanistan pullout. I feel like he could have done it better. But he really had no choice, and it wasn't Joe Biden's fault. It was the fault of George W. Bush, 2 terms. The fault of Barack Obama, and the fault of Donald Trump. 2 terms for Obama and God, I just forgot to talk. 2 terms for George Bush, 2 terms for Barack Obama, and 1 term for President Biden. So Biden, not President Biden, President Trump. And he, yes, did ink the deal to pull out of Afghanistan, but he left the Afghan government out of it. And he didn't care. He said, F the Afghans. You know, he basically abandoned them. So, yeah, he did want to pull out of Afghanistan, but he was a prick about it, and he didn't care about the Afghan people. Joe Biden did what he had to do. As much as I believe maybe the pullout could have been done a little better, a little more efficiently, rather than, and they completely underestimated the Taliban, I will give you that. He did the right thing. We had to get out of Afghanistan, and we should accept as many refugees as we can, all over the world, because America messed up Afghanistan, so they should definitely pay that debt back for taking Afghan refugees, and all around the world we should, because these are human beings that are suffering, and we should help them. So yeah, straight off the bat, Ben, you're wrong.
He has failed on the economy, and he blames everybody else. And he has failed on COVID, and so he blames everybody else.
No, he hasn't.
And what this necessitates is Joe Biden making policy moves that are unlikely to result in any sort of serious improvement for the American people, but are simply designed to shift blame away from himself. So just like the Americans stuck in Afghanistan eventually said the administration are there because they want to be there. Right?
There aren't any Americans stuck in Afghanistan. Like, there's no... Are there Americans in Afghanistan? I think there are a few Americans, but again, he did what he could. Yes, he could do his pull-up better, and yes, we got to get them out. I am not denying that, but he had to leave, and this wasn't his fault. Okay, I can't watch this, I guess. Yeah, it's a painful choice. A lot of them have families and roots there. It's not as simple as just get the hell out. So, it's not like there's just Americans who are there, and it's only about 100 Americans, and that's still really bad, don't get it messed up. But he's making it seem like there's plenty of them, and they have roots there, they have dual citizenships, they have families there. So yes, it is difficult for them to leave, because it's not easy to just take everything and leave. But yes, that, and again, this is not completely Joe Biden's fault. Oh, sorry, I moved the screen.
Worst designed surrender in modern American history. Nope, it's really not about that. It's about the Americans stuck there. It's their fault. In the same way, Joe Biden's failure to prevent the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates from being promulgated in blue areas and therefore shutting down the economy, his unwillingness to recognize when
How does that shut down the economy? How does masks shut down the economy? It just makes people safer, and so does vaccines. That doesn't make any sense. If anything, lockdowns do, but those were necessary in the beginning, and and if the lockdowns happen now, it's the fault of the people who have been misled by you and Michael and other people.
we have reached the end of a pandemic and it has now just become endemic, his failures there have now necessitated that he take this extremely harsh action that is unlikely to ever be implemented because, frankly, no one is going to comply. So, we'll get into the policy of this in just 1 second, and why I say that this thing is never going to be implemented on a wide scale, why it is likely to be struck down, why it's almost unenforceable, even were it not to be struck down. But last night, Joe Biden made the most authoritarian move that I have seen in the last 10, 15, 20 years of American politics. I'm having a hard time pegging it exactly.
Really, the Patriot Act wasn't authoritarian at all to you, Ben Shapiro? The Patriot Act wasn't? That, to me, is the most authoritarian thing. NSA, Guantanamo Bay, none of those things. Killing innocent civilians overseas with drone strikes, that's not authoritarian, imperialistic to you. But a speech admonishing the unvaccinated for their foolish choices is. All right. This is the crazed mind of Ben Shapiro.
Because we've seen authoritarian moves before. Very often, it turns out, Democratic presidents have a bad habit of saying, I don't have the power to do X, and then 5 seconds later, they just do it. So you remember Barack Obama said over and over and over, I don't have the power to simply stop enforcing immigration law, and then he just did it. And you'll remember that Joe Biden said, I don't have the power to issue an eviction moratorium via the Centers for Disease Control, and then he just did it.
That's a bad thing to you? It's not, it's a great thing.
Well, you'll recall that this administration has over and over and over said they do not have the power to issue any sort of vaccine mandate. Here's Joe Biden back in December of last year saying he didn't agree with the idea of a federal vaccine mandate. This was after the election.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power, just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide. I'll do everything in my power as President of the United States to encourage people to do the right thing, and when they do it, demonstrate that it matters.
Okay, so that was back in December. And then in July, his own press secretary, Jen Psaki, said, don't worry, there's not going to be a federal vaccine mandate. We're not even thinking about that. Liars, liars, liars. Because again, as soon as things got bad, it was time for Joe Biden to shift blame. And again, that's what this policy is really about. His entire policy here.
It's not about shifting blame, Ben. It's about the fact that he had to do it because unvaccinated people being misled by you have now made the situation so bad that he has to do a mandate for vaccines. Because otherwise, the people who have been completely misled, radicalized, and made more stupid by you have now not taken the vaccine, are taking freaking drugs that are meant for horses. Ivermectin. Yeah, that's why. Not because he's authoritarian, because he's been forced by the people that you have misled. And the right-wingers, the right-wing Republicans have misled.
Is about shifting blame from himself and his failures of policy to the unvaccinated. So here is Jen Psaki back in July saying no vaccine mandate.
Oh, it's an ad.
Perhaps the federal government should step in and issue mandates, and if not, are you putting the needs of unvaccinated people ahead of the needs of vaccinated people?
Well, I think the question here, one, that's not the role of the federal government. That is the role that institutions, private sector entities, and others may take. That certainly is appropriate.
That literally is not the role of the federal government, says Jen Psaki. Well, until yesterday, at which point the Biden administration, seeking to shift blame away from Afghanistan and focus away from Afghanistan, and seeking to shift blame away from the economic stagnation, shifted away from the administration, decided the people you really should hate are your fellow Americans. Those are the people you should hate. The unvaccinated who live next door to you. Those are the people you should hate.
No one's saying to hate them. That's something you're making up, and you're making up a false narrative based on I don't know what. He's just saying that they should get vaccinated.
To a point that I've made 1 million times at this point. The worried in America, the people who are deeply worried about COVID at this point, are almost entirely the vaccinated, which is insane. Once you're vaccinated, you should not be worried.
The reason that only the vaccinated are worried is because they're the only ones aware of the dangers of COVID, because they've got the scientific information and knowledge, while the unvaccinated are blissfully ignorant. You know how they say ignorance is bliss? They're blissfully ignorant of the dangers of COVID until they or they're one of their family members or the people they care about, friends or whatever, loved ones, get COVID, and then they're like, oh no. Yeah, then they realize, but because they've been misled by people like you, they don't. Just because you're not afraid doesn't mean that you're smart. Let's say you see a lion, across the road. Like you're going on a safari and you see a lion coming and approaching you. If you don't show fear, does that mean that makes you strong? No, it makes you stupid, because you should know the dangers of a lion. Now, obviously, a virus is not an animal like a lion. But my point is, fear is good in certain situations, and in this situation, it is good. Because it will save lives. We should be afraid of COVID, and we should do our best to fight it. So not being afraid is not a good thing in this situation. I'm sorry, but it isn't. So that's the reason. Vaccinated people have the information, are being led, and are thinking for themselves and listening to the right people, while the unvaccinated are not thinking for themselves, are being misled by people like you, and they don't have all the required information.
Worried about whether your neighbor is unvaccinated. It makes no difference to you. This notion that you should be walking around in abject fear because your neighbor is unvaccinated is totally crazy. It is unmoored from scientific reality. First of all, the vaccinated are capable of infecting other people. Second of all, once you're vaccinated, your chances of hospitalization or death are extraordinarily low because, again, the vaccines are incredibly effective. You want to make people hesitant about the vaccine? Keep telling them that even after you're vaccinated, the unvaccinated might infect you and you might die.
No one's saying that. You can get infected and it won't hurt you, but the problem is new variants can come because people are infected, and that can hurt you. And society can't go back to normal until the variants are over.
It's a completely mixed, confused message. But again, it is not about consistency. It is not about efficacy. It is not about actually achieving more vaccines. Right? All this is about shifting blame away from Joe Biden being a failure of president. The economic stagnation that we are seeing is not, in fact, the result of the Delta variant. The economic stagnation that we are seeing is a pure result of bad policy being made in blue states and by the federal government.
I can't believe this. He actually removed blame from COVID and blamed it on the Dems and Joe Biden. Wow. That's some next level stupidity. Like, you can't possibly say that the variants and COVID had no effect on economics. So let's look at the economy in America. Roaring goats born in the second quarter. Corner running gauge Jeffrey keeps overall output of 90.86 of his normal level before COVID-19 turned everything upside down. Okay. 67%, 79% domestic presence. So basically it's all lower. Foot traffic and retail web traffic, not surprised that is much higher. Restaurant bookings, 97%. Mortgaging, 103%, because a lot of people bought houses, I think, because did the prices go up? I don't know what happened. A lot of people got houses. Yeah, 85.6. Yeah. So, people, you know. Okay, so there is a growing economy. Bloomberg? Like the Bloomberg? Oh, no, I'm not reading that. Not Michael Bloomberg, Mr. Billionaire Bloomberg. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong, if that isn't Bloomberg's site, but it is, isn't it? I'm not reading Michael Bloomberg stuff. That guy's a billionaire, and corrupt as hell, man. Let's go.
It's about the media scaring the living hell out of people so they don't want to go to stores. It's about people in blue states saying you can't go back to work because even if you're vaccinated, you might get sick again. There is a reason. I keep repeating this because it's...
Yeah, they'll get sick because of the unvaccinated, not because of them. So just everyone gets vaccinated and the economy can get restarted, Ben. I mean, if you all really are pro-economy.
True. There is a reason that all of the best states in America, in terms of unemployment rate, are red, and all of the worst states in America, in terms of unemployment rate, are blue. There is a reason for that. It is...
Let me fact check that. Was this July? Oh, this is July, August, September. I mean, California is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's in the top 5. DC, I mean, let's look at it. Nevada, California, New Mexico, New York. I mean, these are blue states. New York and California, like, what? That's bullshit. Sorry, Ben, but that's really stupid. North Dakota, Nebraska, Utah. These are all southern states. Which states have the worst unemployment rate? I think it's considered for their populations. Let's look at CNN's unemployment rate. Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Nevada, Michigan, Kentucky, California, Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, you literally have, and again, it's based on population to percentage. So yeah, that's not really a good, there's a mixture of states.
Is because a huge swath of this country has been completely disconnected from the reality of the science, disconnected from the reality of the statistics.
Side.
And so Joe Biden is now saying, you need to blame your neighbor. Don't blame me for the lockdowns. Don't blame me for the mandates. Blame your neighbor. It's their fault that I'm doing this. Or maybe it's your fault for doing it. Maybe it's your fault for doing it. You can see the blame shifting in real time. It's ugly, and it is un-American. It's un-American to say, I have to take this policy against you because your fellow Americans are doing something bad. So now I'm taking this policy and I'm doing it against all of you.
It's not against all of us. It's just against the unvaccinated.
And you should hate your neighbor. Right? It's the Full Metal Jacket style governance. Right? Somebody in your barracks didn't do the proper thing. So now all of you have to do push-ups. And later you can go over to that guy and you can put some soap in a bed sheet and you can beat the living hell out of him. That is Joe Biden's style of governance.
Okay.
It is, in fact, un-American. And it's evidence that he is a failure as both a president and as a decent human being with the kind of power that he's attempting to wield. In 1 second, we'll get to Joe Biden's ridiculous and horrifying speech. Frankly, the stuff that he was saying yesterday. Is there a low for Biden? There is no floor. There really is not. I thought that the worst speech that I'd heard was the speech that he gave like last week upon the withdrawal from Afghanistan, where he championed himself and patted himself on the back while hundreds of Americans were still stuck behind enemy lines. Fast forward 1 week, and now he's calling his fellow Americans, treating them as his subjects. They're not citizens anymore. They are just the people that he gets to order around. And if they don't do what he says, he will force them to do what he says. And it is dictatorial, authoritarian stuff. It really is amazing. Last night, Joe Biden wanders out to the microphone about 5 o'clock in the afternoon because, again, he has to make that early bird special over at Denny's. And he proceeds to yell at you. He's Grandpa Simpson yelling at the clouds. He's going to yell at you if you're unvaccinated. And you know what? He's going to yell at you if you're vaccinated too, because the fact is, if you were just madder at your neighbor, if you were more angry at the person who lives next door to you, then that would fix the country. So he starts off by talking about how frustrated he is with the people who are still not vaccinated.
Fix the country.
Right? Again, this is a free country, or it used to be. And I'm not angry at the people who aren't vaccinated. I'm not. Again, I am very pro-vaccine. I've told everybody in my office I think they ought to get the vaccine. Many of them didn't listen. That is their business.
So you're pro-vaccine, but you don't actually, like, enforce it, like saying, oh, well, if you can't get vaccinated, you shouldn't be here. You're just kind of saying it so that you don't get criticized for being an anti-vaxxer, but at the same time, you are an anti-vaxxer by not really pushing the case too hard. Trying to play both sides here, huh, Ben?
That doesn't make me angry because I'm not a tyrant. Joe Biden is a tyrant, so it makes him super angry
You're
when
really
people don't
angry
listen
in
to
this
him.
video,
And the people that
Ben. You're really angry in this video.
had an impact are the people who didn't listen to him. Now, again, this would be one thing if the unvaccinated were actually posing a danger to the people who are vaccinated. They are not. But that mixed message was completely elided here because, again, this is not about anything other than Joe Biden is a damned coward who wants to shift the blame for his own failures onto the backs of other Americans. So here he is.
Are you ready to ascend? And
No,
if
I'm
you're
not ready to ascend.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free.
Okay, how about the Americans who have natural immunity? There's studies after studies showing that natural immunity is more durable than vaccine immunity.
How do you build immunity? By getting it. And the mRNA vaccine either gives you a blueprint of the virus or gives you a small dead version of it, and then you get immune, and then it becomes you're naturally immune to it. And very, 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 very few people are naturally immune to COVID. So that logic makes no sense. Herd immunity, I don't know what he's trying to do. And a lot of people die and suffer through that process. That's like a last resort type thing. I don't think anyone does that as the first choice. First choice is vaccination and treatment, which is what we're doing. So that was a really, really stupid take, Ben. Sorry.
And yet there are no provisions in Joe Biden's proposed rule for people who have antibodies, for people who already have natural immunity.
Because it's barely any.
Because this isn't about the science. It's about yelling at people. He continues along these lines. He just kept hammering this over and over. If you're unvaccinated, it's your fault I'm doing this. It's your fault that I'm hurting everybody. Right, Zach? It's not my fault I'm hurting you. It's your fault that I'm hurting you. Here's Joe Biden.
It is their fault.
The
that they're
vast
getting
majority
mandated.
of Americans are doing the right thing. Nearly 3/4 of the eligible have gotten at least one shot, but 1/4 has not gotten any. That's nearly 80 million Americans not vaccinated. And a country as large as ours, that's 25% minority. That 25% can cause a lot of damage, and they are.
To whom? To whom? To the 25%. Right? Which Joe Biden freely admits. This is how you know that he's a dishonest, lying sack of... This is how you know it. Right? Because when he says that they're causing a lot of damage, again, the rule of externalities, right, which is where government...
Before I let him go so if it causes harm to the 25%, shouldn't that still make Joe Biden want to vaccinate those people since he cares about all Americans? Or are you saying that he shouldn't care because they're the unvaccinated and he should only care about the vaccinated? I don't know what your argument is there, Ben. It doesn't really make much sense. And no, unvaccinated people can harm vaccinated people because you can still get the virus, but maybe not so much. And there are breakthrough cases. But the biggest danger really is that unvaccinated people are it's like a new variant can grow within the unvaccinated because the fact that they are allowing the virus to keep doing what it wants to replicate, and then a mutation can happen, and boom, you have a new variant that can reduce the effectiveness of the vaccine or get rid of it completely, and then we have to go into lockdown again, and then we have to get a new vaccine going. Yeah, that's why, Ben. It's not because they maybe won't directly, but they help the virus out. They're basically helping the virus out, which we don't want to. We don't want to help the virus. We want to kill the virus. We want to defeat the virus, all the variants. So yes, that's why they can harm them. The biggest reason. Of course, they can still get other people infected. And especially, how could I forget this? They can get children affected because children on 12 or under can't get the vaccine because there's no vaccine for them. Right? There's no vaccine for them. So they can go and get children hurt. Do you want that? I hope not. But based on what you're saying, it looks like you do.
Very often comes into play is I can wave my fist around until it hits you in the face. Okay, that is the general rule of externalities. But what Joe Biden is now saying is that he gets to intervene if I wave my fist around and it hits me in the face. If you're unvaccinated, you are not a danger to the vaccinated. You know who knows this? Joe Biden, who said it last night.
You are a danger. I just explained why.
I want to emphasize that the vaccines provide very strong protection from severe illness from COVID-19.
He said severe illness, not
I know there's a lot of
COVID.
confusion and misinformation, but the world's leading scientists confirm that if you're fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low. In fact, based on available data from the summer, only 1 out of every 160,000 fully vaccinated Americans was hospitalized for COVID per day.
So what the hell are you trying to yell at people for? I don't understand. I'm vaccinated. Again, I do not give... You can ask the people in my office. As soon as I was 2 weeks out from my final vaccination, I came into the office and people had been masking up, right? Many of the people in the office had been masking because I was concerned about me getting it and transmitting to my parents who are 65. Wasn't particularly worried about me getting sick, but I was worried about transmitting to my parents. And then I came in and people said, do you want us to wear the mask? I said, first of all, I never told you had to wear the mask, but if you want to take it off, I really don't care now. I really don't care because it doesn't matter to me. Joe Biden is saying it shouldn't matter to you. Once you are vaccinated, you are safe. But you should still be angry at the unvaccinated. Right? And he just continues along these lines. It makes no sense.
No, Ben, you make no sense. If you said, as you said, you vaccinated, you masked so that you wouldn't transmit it to your parents. So you are aware that it is dangerous, even with the vaccine. And even then you mask, and even then you're careful. You just admitted that even with the vaccine you can get hurt. Even with the vaccine you can get COVID and you can spread it. You can. You said 2 weeks out from your final dose, so you did have 1 dose. And you still were worried about getting the COVID and spreading it to your parents, which means you know that the vaccine is not 100% effective, although it is very effective, especially with 2 doses. 1 dose is like around 65-66%, I think. So, right. You kind of just defeated your whole point. Congratulations, you played yourself. Oh, man.
Here he is saying another incoherent, nonsensical thing.
For the vast majority of you who've gotten vaccinated, I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. I understand the anxiety about getting a breakthrough case. But as the science makes clear, if you're fully vaccinated, you're highly protected from severe illness.
You do.
Even if you get COVID-19. In fact, recent data indicates there is only 1 confirmed positive case per 5,000 fully vaccinated Americans per day. You're as safe as possible. And we're doing everything we can to keep it that way. Keep it that way. Keep you safe.
Okay, so this old man is telling you that you're safe once you're vaccinated. But then he says this. He says, now you're not safe. So on the one hand, you're safe because you got vaccinated. On the other hand, you're unsafe. Now, let me ask, why is he saying you're unsafe? The reason he's saying you're unsafe is because he wants the lockdowns. He wants the mandates. He wants those things so he can justify his failed economic policies, so he can justify a turn away from your focus on Afghanistan, and so that he can justify you being angry not at him, but at somebody else. Be mad at anybody, just not Joe Biden. This is the Biden doctrine in a nutshell. Be angry at everybody except for Joe Biden. How's this?
I mean, that was such a stupid video. Like, he was not understanding or deliberately misrepresenting the idea. The reason the unvaccinated are dangerous, like I said, is because they can breed new variants and then destroy destroy the vaccine like completely, and then we have to create a new vaccine, we have to go to lockdown. And also, unvaccinated people make it where if someone gets it and spreads it to their kid and that kid dies or it has long COVID and is horribly affected because 12 and under do not have vaccines yet, that is also on the unvaccinated. So yes, they harm others than unvaccinated people. They are actively helping the virus get deadlier. So yes, it is harmful to more than just them. It is not just affecting them. So that is a lie. You have to get vaccinated, and I'm glad he's mandating it because I'm sick of people who are not vaccinated, who are spreading COVID, the Delta variant. Can vaccinated breed new variants? The chances of that happening, None, basically. Very, very little. Unvaccinated people are the ones who are, like 95, 98% of the time, breeding the new variant. So no, it's not the vaccinated that are doing it, it's the unvaccinated. That's what it is. You can just look at the data, it's true. And most of the new cases, at least, especially in my province, in Ontario, in Canada, are because of the unvaccinated. So it is really what do you call it? A pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's what it is. So let's see. Let's look at the comments. To be fair, Biden has been lying or shift for his blame his whole career. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Biden, I'll be honest. Especially his past, he had some very sketchy things. Let's be honest. I'm not a huge fan. He's doing good things now, but I would have much rather had Bernie. But you take what you can get, right? You're giving Biden way too much credit. He isn't making the decisions. Then who is? Well, unfortunately, no one disagrees with Joe Biden. I mean, disagrees with Ben Shabibo right here. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate. Ben's absolutely right. Biden is a failure and trying to turn Americans against each other to shift the blame away from himself. Damn. Oh man, I really don't like people like Ben and Michael because they do completely mislead, I think, people who are good but just maybe have been radicalized by Fox News and grew up with the wrong people telling them wrong things, and they will get those people hurt and will also get those people to hurt others by spreading COVID. So it is very, 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 very unfortunate. That's how it is. That's my thoughts on it. Let's see, what else I can do in this stream? We can cover Canadian politics, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. It's not that interesting, to be honest with you. I know I said that on the stream title, but I looked at the stuff and it's just... it's really not that interesting. That's the honest truth of it. I know I could extend the stream by doing it, but I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to give out boring content, to be honest with y'all. I just want to give out fun content that we can all enjoy, and I don't think we're going to enjoy the Canadian part of this thing. So I think I'll just edit the stream title and change it, and I don't want to lie to people and saying that I covered the Canadian thing. I'm going to change that right now. So yeah, this is, I think, the end of the stream. If you enjoyed the stream, please follow me on Twitch. I will be uploading the edited. I'll edit the intermissions out and upload it on YouTube. There's YouTube only content on my channel, so please go and check it out. Like if you like it, subscribe, hit the like button, comment. It really helps me with the algorithm, because the algorithm right now does not like me because I'm a new channel, right? So yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. See y'all on the next stream, whenever that will be. Probably tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. Why am I lying? I really like streaming. Alright, see y'all.